How much surface liquid fresh water of 100% water on the planet, how much is surface liquid fresh water? How much? Wait, what? 0.32-ish? That actually includes groundwater, which is below the ground.
Then was it 0.011%?
Yeah. Yeah, that's all the liquid surface water. If we take all the water on Earth, (97% is salt. That sucks for us. And roughly 2% is frozen. Anybody have the exact numbers for me? 2.15. That means that the total liquid fresh water is 0.3201%. Of that, .3 or so is groundwater. Am I right? You have the exact number? So if you take all the lakes, streams, and rivers, we're talking 0.0101%, I think.
Groundwater is 0.31.
Water, thank you. And so
Lakes is 0.01. Rivers and streams is 0.0001.
okay.
And then atmosphere is 0.001.
Okay. So in our liquid available lakes, streams, and rivers, we're talking a total of 0.011.
Another one.
Another one after? Oh, that includes the atmosphere. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This is the thing that I find so compelling. Everybody talks about our blue planet. You look at that thing and you're like, oh, it's all water. Like, that's pretty cool. There's a lot of water. You can go play in it. You can go fish in there. That's all good. You can grab lobsters. But this does us no good because we can't afford to take the salt out of it. So until we have free energy, this is, relatively speaking, useless to us. And thank God that the planet is melting. Just some of this might get freed up. Currently, it's all frozen. They're like, oh, well, we got a little bit in the ground. That's a little bit. But actually, surface water that all life on Earth relies on is a really small percentage. And the last thing I want to do today is talk about these. I want you guys to remember that there's this thing called gravity. So we're all up here, and the groundwater's all down there. And the stuff that we do up here sort of disappears when it gets underneath our feet. But down below our feet, there are a lot of things still happening. I go pee-pee in the bushes, and I'm like, oh, keep going. Then it rains, and some of that pee-pee will wash into the ocean, and I go, oh, pee-pee's gone. And some of it will soak into the ground, and I go, oh, pee-pee's definitely gone. But all that's going somewhere because there's this thing called gravity. Surface water will reach the ocean first, groundwater will reach the ocean second, but it's all part of the same thing. For example, if you look at number 1, where people are pumping water, like groundwater extraction, my buddy Jacques Newcomb has a big farm in Willow Creek. All his water comes from a well on his property. If he sucks up a lot of water for the farm, a couple of his neighbors' streams dry out. Because by sucking it out of the ground, the streams all of a sudden get to soak in deeper to refill his cone of depression, and streams dry out. Because my buddy's sucking out groundwater. They're all connected. If his neighbors pollute their streams, that's going to mess up his groundwater, because we know that they are the same body of water. And on the other hand, if he stops farming and somebody takes over his farm and puts a bunch of old batteries on the farm, those will percolate into the ground, and all of a sudden his neighbor's streams have battery acid in them. See, look, we forget that groundwater and streams are often continuous. See? Cities are all covered with concrete, so cities are like a big umbrella over groundwater. Because water does not soak through this building, there is no recharge here. There's no water going into the ground underneath cities, or very little. Underneath cities, you tend to get a big dip in groundwater, because all the areas around the city are filling up with rainwater, but the city itself is usually shedding off water instead of percolating it into the ground. That's a really big issue. A lot of people realize now that Los Angeles can provide 100% of its residential water budget with the rain that falls on the city if they could put it underground. Somebody realized if we just punch holes in Los Angeles and let that rainfall soak through the city into the ground, that would be all of their residential water needs. Yeah.
Then wouldn't the water be like polluted from all the extra pollution like in the city?
You're totally right. So the flip side of that is, thank God that we haven't punched holes, because that's a big, nasty, crack whore butt stain. That city. I think that was just a joke name for the city. Also, there's something funny that we do. We do that poopy thing, and we do all this garbage thing. So it's true that the city adds a whole bunch of pollution to the water, but it also adds a whole bunch of nutrients. Funny thing is, like, outside of really big cities, you usually get, like, pretty killer kelp beds. Because we're, like, fertilizing the heck out of the ocean. Like, the dead skin that falls off every human mostly ends up in the ocean. And every time you spit, and, like, every time you drop a banana peel or throw an apple core in the shrubbery, like, all those dogs pooing, that's a lot of nitrogen, man. A lot of dogs. I don't know if you guys have noticed, Americans, like, almost one for one, number of Americans, number of dogs in America. You guys know that? Like, all of our poo goes down the toilet, which goes to the ocean. But all the dogs, they just skip the toilet. It just falls out to the ocean. Maybe you put it in a landfill, and then it rains through the landfill, and then all that water goes out to the ocean. Cities add a lot of nutrients, both to the groundwater and ocean water via the groundwater. Okay. Oh, later on in this unit, we'll talk about everybody's favorite local mega source spot, Rincon. Talk about humans adding nutrients to the water be careful if you go surf Rincon after a really big storm, you might have actual dookie dukes. Because all the septic tanks overflow when it rains too much, and there are like floating turds in the lineup.
I heard one time someone saw like a dead dog floating in the lineup through there.
I have witnessed with my own eyes my buddy Adam with a turd on his calf at the river mouth. I was like, hey buddy, look at your leg. He goes, ah! And he's like total meat freak. Like, it was kind of rad. Okay. I think we're almost out of time, and this was the only thing I wanted to do today. This class ends at 51? Yeah. So we have arrived. I'll stop with this. We introduced the basics of groundwater. Anybody want to ask me anything before the story?
How are you feeling?
To be honest with you, I'm kind of stressed out. My wife and I have some static right now. Never good the day before Valentine's Day.
Did you have anything planned for us?
No, we don't usually do like holidays. Like we don't usually change our life on holidays. But I'm like a little especially kind of a downer day. And that would suck. I mean, usually we agree like that on Tuesday and stuff.
It's okay, not just this season. You should be nice to people about every day.
Yeah, that's our usual block. You have to take the case off your charger every time you charge your phone. Get the phone and charger.
I get that. And I cracked the battery.
I remember to be early tomorrow. They're going to start moving right at the beginning of the period.
Early meeting on time.
Yeah. You know, everyone's like,
Good luck with your wife.
Yeah.
And were you down there or over here? I don't know. Wait, where are we? I don't know.
Is this this tank? No. I want to put it have two more fish tanks. Okay. They want to know if they can go get credit.